Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second Adobe Substance 3D live stream of the year. My name is Val, and I'm going to be your host today. Today, I will be joined by Jeremy, the Substance 3D Ecosystem Product Director, Wes, our Head of Worldwide Substance 3D Evangelism, and Nikki, our 3D Art Director. Together, we'll be walking you through some of the exciting news of Substance 3D. We also have in chat, shout out to Vincent and Anna. Feel free to send your questions and we'll collect them to answer during our Q&A presentation afterwards. We're super excited to share with you about what's been going on with Substance 3D. We'll be talking about the new stuff that we'll be seeing in future, and we'll also be talking about what's going on in the community and how you guys can actually participate. And so speaking of which, let's actually go through our community showcase for the artwork. This is some of the art that has been presented to us over the Substance Discord, through our social medias for people who hashtag made with Substance. We'd love to be able to actually showcase that and give you insight into what that looks like in our video. So I don't know if the video is playing right now. Oh, there it is.
There it goes.
Yeah, it was like it was awkward silence. Yeah, so as you can see, we have some really cool stuff that has been submitted. Look at like the level of substance materials that you're actually seeing with the light scattering off. We have everything that comes down to even Jedi Masters, which I think is super cool personally. This next one, like look at the lighting off of the actual fur on the back. Just incredible work, you guys, that you're posting. Also the fibers here on this palm tree close up, like love it, absolutely love it. We also have this image, which I think is really cool. Like look at how raw the actual render is itself, everything down from like the tears and the sweat on her face to look at like the level of material that goes into the renders on her teeth even. Like there's just something about it that really says like war-torn battle, everything from the way that the light cascades off of the armor to just absolutely beautiful. We also have this whimsical and fun little ice cream sandwich. We absolutely love to see this kind of work too. And then this dress, which beautiful, everything from the frills to the bows, the level of detail in the patterning, just incredible work. We have this, which is like, if you look at the light cascading down from the top, the greenery, the stonework, everything about it, just wonderful. And we also have this, which is maximalism at its finest, everything from the sepia tones to the level of detail in the wallpaper, the way that the scene is just orchestrated is wonderful too. And then we have this by, I believe this is Rain. I think this was from the actual SIGGRAPH portfolio review as well. So people who had come in to show off their work, they're able to actually show off what they're showcasing in Substance 3D, what they've made, show it to us as artists and get some feedback on that too. Like look at this is just amazing. Everything about it just speaks ambience. You can even see like the way that the water cascades down the wall, the watermarks, the plants themselves. There's just something really, really incredible about it. And we're so grateful for everybody who actually posts in and wants to share their artwork here in the community too. And we would love to be able to take this and say like, hey, we want to celebrate what is artists. Like this is just so cool. Even down to the paint on the floor, like absolutely wonderful work. And so, yes, thank you so much for submitting your artwork. We're always looking for a new case to showcase in the community. And speaking of which, we would love to showcase some of the incredible artwork done for the actual SIGGRAPH booth itself in our recap. And so this next video here that you'll see will be really incredible too. We have And so wasn't that wonderful? That was by Mael. Be sure to check out her website. We'll be linking a lot of our people that we're giving our shout outs and our credits to in the chat. The sound design was made by Joseph Sims. His portfolio will also be in the chat. And that was that was actually the video that was playing at the booth itself. We had a really incredible time down in LA for SIGGRAPH. Thank you for everybody that showed up, that came to our portfolio reviews, that came to the Substance 3D after party, and that was able to chat with us, get a sense of like what's going on in Substance 3D, and get a chance to talk to the artists that work with the tools on the daily. Really exciting stuff. Speaking of which, one of our reviewers for our Substance 3D portfolios was Nikki, whom I introduced earlier, and Nikki has some really cool announcements to tell you about. I'll pass it on to you, Nikki.
Thank you, Val. Hello, everyone. I am so glad to be here with you all. First, I want to thank the team for the great work that they've been doing, as well as the whole community for supporting us and continuously creating amazing things with the Substance tools. So today we're going to go through some new features and some new announcements, and we'll be talking about designer, sampler, painter, modeler, Substance integrations, and a few other things. But first, I'm going to start with a SIGGRAPH recap, specifically with some ecosystem news, focusing on 3 new open source initiatives that we announced. The first one is the newly announced Alliance for OpenUSD. This is a group formed by Apple, Pixar, us here at Adobe, Autodesk, and NVIDIA. It aims to standardize and develop a technology called Universal Scene Description, USD, originally created by Pixar. We are super excited to be joining this initiative to help push interoperability amongst the community. You can read more about the Alliance over in the Adobe blog, which will be posted here in the chat. So speaking of USD, I'd like to share a project that we recently completed in-house called End of Summer. Please check out a post again in the chat for a video and an in-depth making of that we recently did with Casimir, Wes, and Gio from the art and development team. And it was hosted by It's Art Mag. The project depended heavily on working with a USD framework because of how efficient, robust, and scalable it is. USD really allowed us to have a unique workflow to transfer assets from one application to another, which was really helpful while working with, to name a few. Let's see if I can get all of them. Omniverse, Unreal, C4D, Maya, Blender, ZBrush, Substance 3D Modeler, and Substance 3D Painter. I may have missed a few, sorry. So currently, every single application in the Substance suite does support some sort of OpenUSD import and or export functions, but now we are more dedicated than ever to continuing to develop USD features. All right, so the next one that we have is OpenPBR, which I will start off by introducing with a video. Okay, so as the video stated, this is a new material specification created in collaboration between the team here at Adobe and the team at Autodesk. The main goal is to have artists leverage creative applications from different vendors to get as close to one cohesive look as possible with this new shader, which is a mix of the Autodesk standard surface and the Adobe standard material. The side-by-side renders that you just saw are still a work in progress, but you can already start to see how close we're getting, even in different applications with different lighting setups. So currently we're gathering feedback from an initial list of contributors with a hope to target September, October for a release of the specification. And to clear up some prior confusion, this is not proprietary. This is already hosted by the ASWF, Academy Software Foundation, and will be publicly released and available on GitHub. And again, you can check out the chat for more information over on the Adobe blog. And so the last one that I'm going to talk about is the connector. And I'm also going to introduce this one with a video that I will talk over. So you can already see in here that we've got a material, and there's a new plugin drop down there that says send to Blender. This one is just going to send the material straight to Blender. And you can see you can still move all of the sliders around in there. And then we're back in Substance 3D Sampler with some really beautiful scan data, this owl. And again, we're going to head up to the Substance plugin. And not only is it going to send your material, but it's also going to use the send to function to send the mesh to Blender. Pretty cool. All right, so what did we just watch? This is a mechanism to send an entire asset from one software application to another. Our goal is to simplify the saving, loading, importing, exporting workflows, which are probably all of our favorites, by transferring the data as easily as possible. Currently, this is a send to function, which some of you may be familiar with already with something like Painter to Stager, but eventually our goal is to develop a live link. We do want to release the library and sample plugins as open source sometime early next year, but currently we're still doing some internal testing, leveraging the Substance 3D apps with Blender, 3ds Max, and Maya, with hopes, of course, to add more applications in the future. And we are also continuing the work we're also working on the existing Unreal and Unity plugins. And so that's it for me. I'm going to pass it on to Wes, our head of worldwide evangelism, to talk about some more product updates.
Thank you so much, Nikki. And thanks everyone for joining us here today. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about Substance 3D assets. So we have some updates from the asset team that I can't wait to get into. But first, I want to check out a video that was created by Sebastian Merrick and sound designed by Giovanni Dubini. Let's check this out. Okay, awesome. That was a great motion design piece and a perfect segue into our new graphic design collection. So the 3D Assets team, they aim to offer 3D content for graphic design and motion designers. So a new batch of non-textured 3D models will be available in October on the 3D Assets platform with lots of models of abstract and realistic assets dedicated to motion design. They've also produced new materials such as plastic and pattern fabric for texturing icons and various graphic models. So many elements are staged in the video that you just saw were created by Sebastian Merrick. So this clip is intended primarily, but not exclusively, for the homepage of Substance Assets library. And again, like I said, it was created by Sebastian Merrick with that sound design by Giovanni Dubini. Now, we are also working on some music instruments collection. So every year, the 3D Assets team, they send out a survey to all of our users to find out the content needs for the different use cases. And as a follow-up to this survey that was sent to Substance users, the Assets team produced the music instrument collection, and this was part of the user requests in 2022. So the 3D content team, they decided to update a new collection to recreate a complete musical instrument to create, various things like Music Studio or Angel campaigns to help graphic designers produce posters directly related to or not to music, such as, concert posters, festivals, etc. Or even to populate the background of a scene like interior visuals, like for IKEA or something like that. Now, another type of content the team's been working on is to produce scanned materials, again, all based on user feedback. So the production of scanned materials for this year is based on feedback from users following the survey that was sent out. So for example, you can see here just a few examples of wood, tree barks and other wood types, coming down to like paneling, painted wood, laminates, ground, landscaping, soil, dirt, grasses, with and without pebbles, mud, forest floor with leaves, needles, gravel, all the different biomes that you would need. So we're talking dirt, earth, sand. Also, we can even say, sand, is it wavy, flat, dry, wet, and so on and so forth. With Substance, there's lots of variation and lots of different parameters that you can tweak here. So also working on various snow materials as well. So also some wall materials coming in around concrete and plaster, stone textures, irregular dirt, dirty, weathered materials, specifically for architectural design, stone wall, ledgestone, pavers, granite, all kinds of different stone packing patterns. So all this is coming to 3D assets. The team is very hard at work on producing lots of content, always based on user feedback. So thanks a lot, everyone, for filling out that survey. And Jeremy, I'm going to send it over to you for some future updates on Substance Designer.
Thank you, Wes. I'll guide you through some of the recent updates in our Substance application, as well as some of the upcoming stuff for the next few months. We're going to start with Substance Designer, and we're going to go back onto to the latest release of Substance Designer a few weeks ago. And those recent updates allowed us to add portal nodes, loops in function graphs, as well as curve nodes. Oh, can we see the next slide, please? There you go. So the portal nodes allow you to clean up your graph very easily, not have kind of a spaghetti monster all the time, even in complex graphs. And the loops in the function graph allowed us to create that new collection of curve nodes that you can see examples here on the right, that allow a whole lot of new creative possibilities inside of the designer graphs. We have new updates coming up as well for Designer, and the next update will bring a few things like frame improvements. Resizing frames has always been kind of finicky a little bit in Designer. Now we'll be able to kind of shrink the frames to fit the nodes that are in that frame, or if you have a node that's inside the frame that you're kind of moving a little bit, instead of having to resize the frame manually, the frame will actually follow along. So there's a few little quality of life improvements. We're also improving the graph search, and until now the graph search was very strict. And now, from now on, if you search for a node, even if you have some typos in there, it's not exactly the right name, it will find what you're looking for. It's also very helpful. If we're looking ahead, looking further, we are hard at work. The team is really hard at work in building kind of next iteration of Substance Designer, and that includes native Material X support and authoring, which means that instead of just authoring Substance graphs, you'll be able to author Substance and Material X graphs as well. So the textures and the shading and pattern side of materials. Again, to be able to create much more complex material overall that can be compatible with any app or renderer that supports Material X. That also means that we're updating the app around USD, and you'll see that's a common theme across all our applications, and switching the viewport to Hydra. Using Hydra means that we can use our own custom internal renderer that does path tracing and rasterization, but we can also plug in any custom renderer, outside renderer that would be supporting Hydra. Let's say Renderman and Octane, you would be able to plug those renderers directly inside of the Substance Designer viewport. So this is all work that will come online over the course of the next year. Next up, we have Sampler. We have a new release of Sampler, actually a pretty big release of Sampler today. It was just a couple hours ago, and Sampler 4.2. So the new features that are coming online are a new image to material. We talked about this at the beginning of the year at GDC. This is a new version of the AI-powered image to material. We got an AI upscale that allows you to upscale textures up to 4 times using AI. We also have a new way to manage your layer resolution. Until now, the resolution of your Sampler project was a unique resolution per project, per stack. You can now override the resolution per layer, which is very useful when you do, super res and various other operations like this, or you tile a texture, and you just want to, at some point in the layer stack, get to a higher resolution while still maintaining good performance at the bottom of the stack. And we also have new language support with Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese localization. A little bit more about the new AI to material, image to material filter. You can see a bunch of examples here where the previous version really worked mostly on kind of ground surfaces or wall surfaces. That new version works on every material. It was trained on every type of materials, all the way from leather to fabric to metals to environments. And you have various presets that you can play with to make sure that no matter what the input image is, you get a result that makes sense. It's also available on all platforms, which means Windows, Mac, and Linux. Next up, also, it will highlight on the AI upscale. It's just a filter in your stack that you'll be able to apply at any point in your project. And that will allow you to up-res your texture up to 2K or 4K. And that maintain coherency between all the PBR channels. Means it will upscale accurately your base color, but also your normal, your height, and all the other channels in a consistent way. Of course, we're always working on new features for Sampler. And on the horizon, we have as well Hydra Viewport being able to leverage USD and Hydra, being able to integrate our own path tracer and rasterizer that you can also always that you can already use in Stager today. We're improving it, we're making it faster, and we'll be bringing it to Sampler in the near future. Also working on improvements to the photogrammetry pipeline, as well as new content and new layer capabilities. That was Sampler. Next up is Painter. For Painter, we released a pretty big update a few weeks ago, and the star of the show here was the Path tool. The Path tool allows you to create non-destructive path on your model using kind of vector shapes, vector path. And we also released new content and added parameters to the dynamic strokes to really take advantage of that feature as much as we could. And you can see some examples here of custom readable path like stitches or weld marks, and to kind of go a little bit more in detail and see how this all works and how cool the feature is. Wes here is going to be able to give us a cool demo of the feature. Take it away, Wes.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeremy. So now we're going to jump into Substance Painter, and I'm going to go over how the Path tool works. So what I'm starting with here is an old character that I created, and I want to look at maybe adding some augmentation here to his face. So here's what it would actually look like when I originally created this, and I used just the brush tool, and just used the straight line features of the brush tool, and it worked, but a little bit of a pain to kind of work through that. So now let's take a look at how I can use the new Path tool to do something like this. So first things first, you'll notice here in my layer stack that I have an effect that I'm building up. So it's a little bit complex, but I use anchor points. I'm a fanatic for anchor points, so I use them all the time, every single project. But this is actually feeding into several different layers to create an effect. And so here in my mask, what I'm going to do is just create a paint effect. And so I have my paint effect here. I can jump over to my toolbox. And if we take a look, we have this new paint along path. You can paint along a path. You can erase along a path. You can also smudge along a path. In my case here, I'm going to use the paint along path. Now, once the tool is selected, you'll notice here at the top of the toolbar, I have a couple options here, and we'll jump into these. But first, let's just start to create a path. So what I can do is I can come over here to the surface, and I can just start to click to just plot some paths here. And so I'm just gonna add a few of these guys in here, and you can see that I have this plot line. And what's really cool about this is I can grab each one of these little point nodes and I can move them around after the fact. And so what I'm doing here in this particular case is I'm just creating a mask. So Alt left click here on the mask. You can see here's the mask that I'm creating here with my points. Now, if we take a look, you can see that I have my path. Well, what can I do? If I come over here to the top of the toolbar, well, if I show and hide the interface, you can see here I can show and hide that path. There's also a few options here, like for example, the handle sizes. I can switch these here to, sometimes it depends on the project. I have this set to large here for now, but you can set different visibility options here for the path. Let's keep that at medium. You can change, you can enable things like the normals. This is actually kind of helpful because you'll notice that this curve that I'm creating is actually following right along on the 3D surface here of the object. All right, so before we get into that here, let me go back and I'm just gonna delete that guy. Let me do it again. So we'll come over here, we'll create a path. I've got my paint on tool. Now, one of the things we can do is, let's say that I want to start creating this path, and you saw the first time that I did it, it was very smooth. Well, what I can do is I can double click. As soon as I click to create a point, you'll notice here that what it does is it enables this corner and smooth option. So a double click creates a corner point for me. So now as I go and create my points, you can see that I have this nice kind of hard point line, which is kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to have this like curved, I didn't want to have a smooth, I wanted to have basically like a linear point. And so what I could also do is come over here at any point in time, I could select a curve and then I can toggle this to smooth or corner point if I need to. Now, right now you cannot tweak the tangent handles, but that will be coming in a future update. So stay tuned for that. So I also have a couple other options, like I can delete this vertex if I want. I can take it back to the corner. You'll notice here that there's an option that lets me see where the endpoint is. And I can use this little button here to reverse that path if I need to. If I wanted to, with the point selected, I could click this button, which is going to close the path. Now, in this particular case, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to turn that off. Now, one of the other things that's pretty powerful about this is how we can adjust things on the fly after we have the curve placed. This is where you really get the benefit instead of using the brush tool. So for example, if I want to come over here to the size option and I start to adjust the size, I can change interactively the points, the size, or we'll say here the stroke of this brush that's being projected along this curve. And then of course, anytime I can go in and start to change these options. Now, something else I can do, let's go ahead and just left click and drag, and I'm going to select just this point, and I'm going to adjust the pressure option. So this is kind of neat. Look, I can even pinch in the pressure if I want to on these points here. Just gives a little bit of different kind of variation as this is kind of, as this kind of augmentation line is pushing into his skin. So, let me just change a little bit of these options here. Let's get something a little bit different. Okay, so I have this single point or single curve. If I look up here at my paths, I can see that I have a path. Now, if I hit the escape key or enter, so let's say I hit the escape key, you can see that kind of turns off the point, the curve. But let's say that I want to add some additional curves. Well, I can just start to click again and just create another curve. Now you'll see that it's very smooth because I forgot to double click. So I'll just left click and drag, select my points, and then change these to a corner point. Now I want to connect these lines essentially. So I'm just going to move so it cuts into the surface. What's really interesting about this is, again, how I'm using anchor points. So I'm using an anchor point for this path and passing it up here through my different layer stack just to build up this effect. Now, if you would be interested in seeing how I did this, just hit me up on any of my social media accounts. I'd love to make a tutorial on this if you're interested. I'm always looking for new tutorial ideas, so feel free to hit me up anytime if you had an idea for something. So now you'll notice that I have two paths, so I can just select here. If I wanted to make a change once again, I can always go back and re-edit everything, change the size, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty flexible tool, pretty awesome addition to Substance Painter. And if I'm not mistaken, it's something that's been requested for quite some time, I think going back to the Substance Painter beta. So awesome to have it here. Thanks very much to the Substance Painter team. Okay, so one other thing before I move on, let's jump down here to his jacket. I want to show just kind of another part of this. So in his jacket, I'm going to come over. I have this little layer that's been created called stitching, and I want to create some stitching. So again, the paint on path tool is awesome for stitches. So in our content, Jeremy mentioned we've got lots of new content. Be sure to check it out. One of the new pieces of content that was created, this top stitching, it's super awesome. So let's check it out. So I'm just going to left click here to turn on the top stitching material tool, and you'll see that I still have my paint on path tool selected. So I'm going to come in and I'm just going to double click. Let's create a point, and you can see I'm just starting to kind of create a few points here. where I want my stitching to go. It looks pretty good. Let me just toggle this off so I can see. So there we have some stitching that I'm starting to place in. I need to make a few changes here. Like I said, another great option of using the paint on path. I can just adjust the size after I've placed this down. So I'm just making an adjustment here. If I jump over to my properties panel in my materials, you can see that this top stitching tool has tons of options. So one thing I could do is maybe come over to, I think one thing I kind of play with on this is if I come over here to my, let's see, I'm just looking at a couple options here. Let me see. You know what? I'm going to just switch this back to, I was just thinking out loud, but I think what I'll do is just come down here to these guys. So yeah, one thing sometimes I'll play with here is the stamp cycle count, because this is actually using a dynamic stroke. So you'll notice that as I change this, I can get a couple different iterations on how many of these little stitch patterns are going to be created. So sometimes you might want to tweak that a little bit. You can also come down into here and change things like your thread thickness. So I can play with this, but then this also has several different options. So if I look at the category options, you can see I have classic stitch, and the number of stitches I can get in here is tons. So let's say I do like a zigzag stitch. I could do, you know, all kinds of different options. What's the double here? It looks okay. Let's see, not what I want for this. Shell tuck stitch looks pretty cool. I know nothing about fashion or clothes, so that I'm kind of like trying to figure out what all this stuff means. Blind hem stitch. Okay, sure. I'm sure that's what that actually is. Looks good. But I'm just going to use the, you know, just old-fashioned straight stitch in this particular case. Okay, so again, I look at my patch. This is what I want to work with. I could even adjust the material. Maybe it's too white. I'm just going to set this to a gray. I could change the material if I want to, play around with the roughness, metallic, so on and so forth. You also have different options for the stitching. Let's take a look here at this puckering. So if I zoom in on this, you can see that I can actually decrease or increase the intensity of this puckering of the stitch, which is cool. Let's go back here to that path. Let's enable it. Now let's say that I want to continue this on. Here's a good use case for being able to switch the direction of the curve. So for example, the next point that I add would be at the end of this. And I kind of created this in reverse or opposite of what I wanted to do. So I'll just come over here and click this option to reverse my path direction. And now I can come in and just start to continue just to paint here. Well, paint, I mean, create a curve, we'll say. And we'll turn that off, and there we go. We have our stitching. Of course, like I said, we can continue to make changes. I can add new path lines if I want to, but that is the Paint on Path tool along with our top stitching. So with that said, I'm going to turn this back over to Jeremy. Thanks a lot, everyone, and be sure to check out this new feature. I'm pretty sure you're going to love it.
Thank you, Wes, for the amazing demo as usual. And we have more goodness coming to Substance Painter, of course. One of them is improved translucency support. We know that, you know, translucency and transparency has been kind of a not greatly supported or even not supported at all for a wine painter. So we're working on good translucency support. We're also improving the way you import assets. We've heard loud and clear that, you know, the import process for asset is cumbersome. So we're improving all this in different ways. You'll be able to drag and drop any asset from your, from your file browser directly into the layer stack or into a specific slot inside of a layer, instead of having to import in the shell first and then use it, choose the type of asset, then use it in your stack. We'll also be able to drag and drop assets from the shelf, from the library, directly into the stack to create new layers, instead of having to create a new layer first and then drag and drop something. And we're also exploring how we're going to be able to drag and drop asset in the viewport directly. And finally, we're also working on vector graphic support, so being able to bring SVG file with the full resolution that you can get from vector files directly into Substance Painter, instead of having to do like a PNG conversion first, for example. That's it for Painter. Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about Modeler. So for Modeler, we'll also have a new release today. Lots of things happening today. We also have a pretty big release today with some amazing features. One of them that you can see in the video here being kind of the most requested feature on Modeler, being able to have reference images in VR. So you can kind of load up your whole mood board and your whole reference images, place them in space the way you want them to use as reference for your modeling. Also, overall, the export export quality that we're getting from Modeler now is on par with any other sculpting app out there. It's really amazing. It's really fast. It export, full quad meshes with UVs, vertex color, all of it in amazing quality. As well, improve the imports, adding environment controls to change the lighting and how things look in the viewports. Having also ability to see what the performance look like, support for Wacom multi-touch. You can see at the top right as well, experimental support for HBAO. That tells you what you see on the left is kind of the current result in Modeler. And what you see in the middle here is the new HBAO, which shows you in real time to have a better sense of shapes in the viewport. And then the right side is the screenshot modes with the actual ray trace shadows. Of course, the team is working on more things coming up. So a few things that we're working on or thinking about for the next releases are being able to have material IDs, non-destructive layers, non-destructive booleans in the app is a big ask. Improving the build-up tool as well, improving the symmetry, having a scene outliner allows you to kind of make it easier to find what you're looking for in large scenes, because Modeler allows you to create very large environments and scenes. All the things that we're looking at for future updates. That is it for kind of the app updates for today. We wanted also to highlight, at the beginning of the stream, we talked a little bit about SIGGRAPH and what happened there. You may know, you may not know that Adobe is a very big contributor to SIGGRAPH, and every year there's dozens of papers that are produced by Adobe Research that are presented at SIGGRAPH. And this year was no exception. I just wanted to highlight 3 projects out of the many that were presented that were kind of really highlights of the show. And we have a few videos that kind of go quickly over these projects. So let's roll the video. This first project was a collaboration between the Smithsonian Institute and Adobe Research. The goal here was to create a digital double of the Mercury suit, the first spacesuit ever created by NASA for its first manned mission. To properly digitize the suit, which has a metallic surface, which makes it very hard to digitize, the team used a light hand as well as multiple camera setup with different lenses. After this first phase of scanning, the team had a diffuse flash version for geometry reconstruction, as well as diffuse and cross-polarized version for material extraction. The resulting raw model was a 500 million triangle, 44 gigapixels. We're able to decimate it down to 400,000 triangle using custom decimation technology. This decimated model was then split into multiple parts, on which we used our custom automatic UV tech to lay out the UVs across multiple UDMs to get as much detail as we could from the suit. To recreate the final look of the suit, the team reprojected the cross-polarized version onto the geometry and improved the result using micro displacement and normal maps. Here are a few screenshots of the amazingly detailed final version. The second project is a little different, and the goal here was to synthesize the sound of bubbles in a liquid simulation. What you hear in these videos is generated and not recorded. In this third paper, Yale University and Adobe Research have collaborated to explore generating procedural materials from text or image prompt directly. In this case, we can use an input image or text to generate an entire procedural substance designer graph automatically. The input can be an image, a simple text prompt, or a piece of a graph and an image. And we can either generate an entire graph or complete existing graphs. In this case, the simple prompt Dirty Concrete allows us to generate a fully procedural graph generating the material you can see on the right. Here are a few more examples where you can see the input image on the left and the generated material on the right. This example as well shows the input image on the left and multiple variations of the generated substance graph on the right. Here are a few more examples of fully procedural substance graph generated from prompts. Of course, all those graphs are fully editable in Substance Designer, making them a great starting point for custom graphs and more advanced materials. And that's it for our updates. Now I'll give the mic back to Nikki Aval. I forgot who does the next part for upcoming events.
I got it, Jeremy. It's good. It's good. Let me just get back going. Yeah. So thank you so much for the overview, everyone. Really exciting stuff. I know that we've seen in the comments already that people are excited about like graph images for Modeler, and we're like riding the train around that. Really, really cool. And so before we kick off with the QA, I'd like to announce some of our major upcoming events. And so we have IBC in Amsterdam in September, so come by and check us out there. We also have the fabled Adobe Max in LA in October with amazing 3D sessions, labs. You'll love it. We have, I think Emily Bissette's going to be there again. She's absolutely wonderful. And we also have the Lightbox Expo in October. I don't believe we'll be having an official booth there, but we will be there to talk 3D with y'all. So if you're there, hit us up. We'll definitely be there. And we would also love to share our new Substance 3D evangelism team. They're our very own experts in Substance 3D, and we'll be posting videos, tutorials, projects. Be sure to keep up with them on their own social medias for news on our latest features and bespoke workflows. You'll see Wes, who is actually here with us. He just did the last presentation. We also have Anna and Vincent in chat right now. Thanks so much, you guys, for all the great work that you do. We also have Nick Sharma, and he couldn't join us here today, but you'll definitely be seeing him in and around the social medias surrounding Substance 3D. Speaking of which, be sure to follow our official socials too. So that's Substance 3D. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, the whole shebang. And be sure to also join our Discord. We'll be posting the link for that below. And so without further ado, let's move on to the Q&A session. And so as you guys have been chatting in and sending in your questions, we have been collecting them. And so we are excited to be able to ask our speakers around what has been shown and what we've seen. And so we would love to start to kick it off. And here we are. All righty, you guys ready? Excellent. All right, so for Painter questions, we have, for the USD, can you make possible for Substance Painter to read the vertex color information?
It should be possible. If it's not the case, it's probably something that we're still missing. I know that we've been working a lot on that USD import feature. There's still things that we're missing. USD is a big format that has many various facets, and I think it's an ongoing process to be able to improve the support. So if it's not there yet, expect it at some point next year.
Okay, excellent. And then we also have people who absolutely love the new paths. Wes, you did an incredible job with your showcase there. Are there any plans on making them fillable in future?
Oh, fillable as is. I assume that's a complicated problem, especially because the surface, you could have a path making a circle, and then the surface, it can be anything really. So fitting this properly is probably a hard problem, but I assume that we'll have something thinking about it at least.
Hey, I can add a tip to that though. So this is actually a shout out to Anna on the evangelism team. She's in the chat. So hey, Anna. So I noticed like on one of her projects, she had this bag, and she wanted to put she wanted to fill in between these two lines. And so I thought it was really cool. What she did was she just used the path tool, but she placed the path in the middle of the two lines she wanted to fill, and then just drew her path, and then increased the stroke size after the fact, so then it filled all the way up to between the two lines that she wanted. So I thought that was a really cool way of using fill. I didn't even think of it. You should have seen what I was trying to do to match what she did on something else. And then I was like, oh yeah, I could have just put the path in the middle, So anyways, that's a cool tip. Doesn't work for everything, of course, but just keep it in mind. Yeah, it's simple, but I don't know. I didn't even think of it. So anyways, cool tip.
Funny, you could say we feel really good about it.
You can't do that. That's for Gio, right?
Yeah, shout out to Gio if he's watching this.
Yeah. He's like the master of those, whatever those things are called. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you guys. I thought that this was what I was paid to do.
No, that was awesome. You should do like a battle with Gio over that one day on the next live stream. That's what the next Modeler Monday or something should be. You and Gio having like a battle over those kind of things.
Well, now that we have all these cool new features in Modeler, I think that would be something that would be like absolutely incredible. Anyway, continuing on. What is going on with Substance in Houdini? Just a general question, it seems like. Does anyone want to answer that?
Jeremy does. He loves that question.
Mhm.
I
think
Sorry,
so.
I couldn't help it. Yeah. I just drove a bus over him. Yeah.
oh my gosh, yeah, it's a big plus. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with it. As last I heard, it was working great. So
It's
any
not,
more
man.
details on
It's
that
not.
bit? It's not.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to you on that. Maybe next live stream we'll have a status update. I don't have one today. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to go back and ask the team about it. But yeah, there's issues.
Okay, well, we will save that for another time then. Sorry to everybody
Yeah.
who's trying to make that work. Currently, we're working on it. All right, so for Painter, are there any plans to add an RGB splitter node for importing, say, like a 3-color logo that has each color in RGB?
And that should be doable with a substance filter, right, Wes? It feels like that's something that we could make as a.
Yeah, I think so. There is an RGB splitter inside Designer that it ships with, I think. So yeah, I mean, not that we want to just say everything.
Well, we will come back to that then sometime in the future. Maybe that will be another video tutorial or something to that effect. All right, so for our next Painter question, we have, can you please add a quick switch for selecting channels and layers, for example, using some kind of bind?
Oh, is it
It's funny because we see,
to
oh,
switch the channel in the layer stack, I assume?
yes, I believe so.
Yeah, because we have it in the viewport with the C key, I think, but that does not correlate to the channels in the layer stack.
Mm.
I feel like we could have maybe a variation of that. Maybe it's like I don't know, Shift C or something that allows you to also swap it out in the cycle for it in the layer stack, maybe. But yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. That's I keep hitting that drop down constantly. It's kind of annoying.
Alrighty, our next question. Does AI support optimization of a graph by using the faster nodes, MS, for example?
Oh, we don't have. I don't think we've done that. So the research project that was shown is generating graphs. I don't know if it take into account the performance of the graph it generates. I assume it tries to generate something optimal, but I don't know that we have any way for now to optimize a graph in terms of performance of nodes. That would probably be a good other research projects.
Mm. All right, and then we have our VR enthusiasts in the chat as well. When can we start using Substance Painter in VR? It's been teased so long ago, and it could complete the creation process in VR. If you model in VR, texturing in 2D is very mediocre. It's mid.
I've never
Hop
used
on.
that. We should have never used that. It we'll answer the same thing I think we answer every time, is that it was an experiment. We probably shouldn't have shown it. It was not very good, an experiment that didn't really pan out. And for Painter to work in VR, there are pretty heavy engineering that would be necessary. So I would not hold my breath for it. Doesn't mean that we're not going to do any VR painting at some point, but probably not in Painter, at least not in the short term.
Wop wop. That's okay. Painter's still cool, regardless. And so we have a question for Designer. And so it says, it's a bit more advanced, but it'll be really cool to have more in-depth tutorials about the whole loop node in Substance Designer. I'm not sure if that's a question or a comment, but we agree, I think. What do you think, Wes, Nikki?
Yeah, definitely it's needed. I think that Lauren's actually has some plans for that. So
cool.
yeah, I think we'll have something like that coming.
Excellent. All right, our next question, a lot of Painter questions today. Does Painter have any kind of effect to mirror flip in 3D, like a pass-through that can flip a whole folder, not in UV space, but across the X-axis? It would save so much time making left and right shoes in particular.
We have I don't think we have anything like that, because that would mean there would need to be a reprojection in 3D space. You would flip it in 3D space. I don't think we have anything like that. Yeah, if you could, I mean, you couldn't do it in even in UV space, would not work. Yeah, that was a tricky one. Typically, if you had two pairs of shoes, and you want them to be, to have part of it that's matching, so you don't have to do the work twice, and then part of it that's unique. You could use if there are two different texture sets, you could use the instantiate texture set feature, where you basically texture one shoe just to instantiate that on the second shoe, and then on top of that instance, you can add layers and kind of customize it. But it's kind of a workaround. Yeah, there's no built-in feature to do that.
Right. Okay. Also, wireframes in Substance Painter, is that in the works at all? Is that something that was ever considered?
I feel like I've asked this one 5 times, +1 to whoever asked. Yes, wireframe. Would love to add it too.
Yeah, we
It's
don't.
funny.
But I mean, shortcuts are typically easy to add. It's just
Yeah.
it's just they're typically easy asks, but at the same time low priority, and so they tend to be squeezed out of new updates. But yeah, it's a good one.
I think especially with the new Paint Along Path tool, it's nice to have a template to follow. Like if there's a wireframe that you want to follow, it's just, the workaround is to take your screen cap of the UVs and import that on just a new layer and a fill, with an alpha, and kind of do it that way. But yeah, +1 for a wireframe hotkey.
It's kind of funny because a lot of the questions that we're seeing here, I feel like the internal team also asks themselves. So yeah, we're super grateful for everybody in the community that's asking these questions too. The next one is for designer. The question is, will procedural graph generation stuff for designer plan to be shipped with designer, or is it just an experiment that won't make it through to shipping? Really narrow questions.
I mean, all research projects, are at some point, would like to ship them. Where the difference between something that works for research and something that we can ship in the product for 100,000 people, there's quite a gap. There's a lot of work to be done between something that works theoretically over a small test set and something that works for everything. So I would say that would be awesome if we could ship it. When that will happen and if that will happen, we really don't know until we start deciding, okay, let's, this is good enough, and this is I would say consistent enough that we can ship it. Typically the things that we're just putting in that SIGGRAPH, and it's brand new research, there's a lot of work for us to do to make sure it's something that we can actually ship, but we'd love to. I mean, it's an amazing tech.
Well, there's a lot of excitement around Material X. So will Material X be more integrated into Substance? The person has seen a demo integrating a graph into Designer.
Yeah, I think that it's it goes hand in hand with the USD effort, right? Where we're bringing USD to our application, in all our applications, and Material X just makes sense to support Material X. So Designer is the one that's going to be authoring the Material X. That's where it's coming first. Typically, we're working our renderer will be integrating Designer and Sampler and Stager. We're working on Material X support in that renderer as well. So it's effort on multiple fronts that will hopefully come together, in a little bit of time, because it's a big effort. But having Material X as kind of a first-class citizen in our ecosystem is definitely a goal. Yeah.
Very cool. And so we also have some questions around Stager too regarding Material X nodes and Open PBR. So the question just generally is, what is Open PBR? Will Stager utilize it? Will Stager support Material X? They're saying that the information is a little bit broad, so we'd love to hear some narrowing in.
You want me to take this one, Jeremy?
Yeah, go ahead if you want to talk a little bit more about.
Yeah. There's a collaboration, and it's between us and Autodesk. It's a new shader. And eventually, our hope is to put this in the entire ecosystem. So Painter will support it and Stager will support it. And I think there've been talks about whether it's going to replace the ASM that we currently have, or if, we're not really sure how the integration is going to happen yet. But eventually, yes, you will be able to have a scene that you created in Maya with OpenPBR open up, and the shader is going to be exactly the same inside of Stager. And I have personally been working on that project for the last couple of months now, and it's just really exciting to see. I open it up in Stager and it looks exactly the same. So imagine, you're collaborating. If there's multiple studios working on one shot, you're collaborating with them. You'll be able to open up that asset, hopefully, inside of whatever software you're working that chooses to support OpenPBR, and it'll just work, which is really exciting. Coming from the animation world before I joined here, we were working with multiple studios at the same time. And so if there's something that we can all use, hey, this person's using Redshift or this person's using Arnold or whatever, and everybody has OpenPBR inside of that application, we can all share assets just so much easier. So really, really, really excited about it.
Is there any plan to possibly have more than one UV channel to work on or to work with in Substance Painter?
That's another one. I think
We should.
The creatives are asking.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, it's probably probably one of the requests that came at around the same time as the curve, like back in the beta. It was like,
Yeah.
second UV for AO, whatnot. Yeah, it's been, we know that it's been a request for a long time. Again, it's one of those things that seems easy on paper, but it's actually complicated and has a lot of UX implications inside of Painter. So I think eventually we'll get there, but it's always a tricky one.
All right, and then we have another question around the Shepard spacesuit project. There's a lot of interest in that. People are asking, is there a way to see the full process of scanning it? If they want to see more about the actual research papers, is there a place that they can go or somebody that they can contact to get that information?
Yeah, so typically all those papers are public. I don't have a link here, but if you Google the name of the project or the title screen at the beginning of the video, that's the name of the researchers that worked on it, you should be able to find the paper. This was like a very super cut of the project. The video is actually probably like 30 minutes long and goes really over the whole process. Yeah, there's definitely more details out there.
Very cool. Our next question is there coming a new way to export designer animations in a video without using an engine instead of an image sequence of each channel? And so the question is more around Substance Player, I believe.
There's nothing here, nothing new here. I think the Substance Player is still kind of the way to go for this. Yeah, we're working on things, but I can't share yet what we're working on. But hopefully we'll have better ways to do that in the future. But for now, Substance Player is still the way to go. Yeah.
In a way, this is very exciting because I feel like I'm on the Ellen show and we're asking like, the actors, like, does this person die in future? But instead it's features for Substance 3D. Speaking of which, is there any Maya to Painter models like send through links that are coming in future?
Connector.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about connector or
That's definitely
Nikki.
fine.
Yeah.
No, that's all in the works. That's all being planned. So currently we've got the send to feature working from Maya, from Maya, 3ds Max, and Blender. And then we are leveraging all of our apps in the Substance ecosystem. And I'm not too sure specifically what I can say. I don't know if there's anybody in the chat that can write the specifics, but yeah, we want all of the apps to talk to each other, internal apps and external. So it is a send to function right now, but kind of like the Unity live link that we had a while ago, that's eventually what we want it to be. So I'm really excited about that. That's going to cut out so much time. But I know the question was specifically from Painter to Maya. I mean, we do still have the plugins that are available today, but yeah, we're working to overhaul all of that for the connector.
Yeah, and so yeah, the live link that we had was to Painter to Unreal, and so someone actually brought that up in the comments I saw, asking about that because yeah, that's been broken for so long, and so I think what's been going on is like a lot of behind the scenes work to do something that's even bigger and better, and it takes a lot of time and unfortunately, like we can't say anything about it, but that's what connector is starting to become. So like you'll notice that like in the future, I think that functionality between like what we had with Unreal is kind of where it'll end up going, from what we kind of showcased at SIGGRAPH, which will be really, really cool, as you said, Nikki.
Yeah, I mean, and we want it to work, and we want it to work really well. So that kind of stuff takes time. But yeah, early next year, we'll start to see some of that stuff roll out, I was told.
Yeah, I think connector is like one of my I don't know, most excited things internally that I'm pumped about.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, I have open PBR is my thing, but connector is, I mean, the amount of time that we've all spent just exporting and importing and oh God, I forgot that channel, or oh, this doesn't work, the shader doesn't look the same. It's just, yeah, I can't wait to just hit a button. I like buttons.
Yeah. Like the only thing that I really want above all things is just like Substance to just work with seamlessly with other products. You know, like I just want to be like, oh, I'm in Painter, I send it over here, and then I tweak this thing and wherever I sent it, and I can update it in Painter and back and forth.
Yeah.
You,
Like
you know, Jeremy, yeah, I'm talking about the overall dream of it. Just like that's, I think I don't know, hopefully maybe speaking for some others, but like yeah, I think that's the ultimate dream is just things just seamlessly go back and forth, and you're not fighting tech stuff all day. You're just working on stuff.
yes, more painting, less exporting,
Yeah.
less button pushing.
Alrighty. We have some praise for a sampler. Ooh, people love sampler. Excellent. They're asking, do you ever plan on adding functionality for sculpting displacement maps / normal maps in 2D in sampler?
It hasn't been a focus until now. We have kind of very simple I would not even say painting, masking tools in Sampler for some of the features. But we've never kind of gone further than that. Definitely something that I could see in the future, especially for, not necessarily for authoring from scratch things, but for fixing or, changing things that you captured or that you generated, to be able to, fix some mistake in the generation or some things that are that are not right in the capture, or if you want to elevate some parts or not. I could definitely see that working. I don't think it's going to be a full-blown painting tool set like you have in Painter, but basic painting could really be useful.
Yeah, we did improve the clone stamp tool like by a great amount. So like one of the things that I found to be pretty cool was, like you said, Jeremy, you're not creating it from scratch, but like there could be something you scanned and now you can just do multiple clone stamps within a single clone stamp operation in the layer stack, and it's pretty simple at that point just to move things around, like remove something or place pieces in other spots. So I don't know, I found that to be pretty cool.
Alrighty. We have some more suggestions for designer. They're like, it's funny because they're part questions, part suggestions. They're like, can we, or is this coming? Or, hey, what about this? And so one of those is, can you add the ability to save settings as default in nodes? This person doesn't want to change them every time a node is created.
It's a good one. We don't have that, but that's a good request. Yeah, especially these complex nodes that has a lot of settings, and you have your own way of working, and there's some of the settings that you always set the same. That would make a lot of sense to be able to set. This is going to be always the way I use that node. So please just set all those defaults. I don't have to go through like 50 different sliders, set it every time. Yeah.
Yeah, like an overall template would be nice, like we have in Painter.
That makes sense.
And I think now we can save presets from Designer. So I guess another like workaround would be like
You can
could
save presets on custom nodes, but not on the default. Like if you have like a like a tile sampler or something, that's like a default node. Then I don't think you can save a preset for
Oh,
those.
okay. Oh, gotcha.
Well, that could be an improvement. But yeah, any node that you create, you can kind of do that by saving templates. Yeah, or presets.
Having a filter made in SD or flip the alphas each time in Photoshop is how it's currently being done.
Yeah, that could be an extra brush option. Yeah.
I get a lot of those.
Yes.
Yeah. Vincent was saying, I think he replied to that. He was thinking that we thought we did that. Like I thought there was.
I mean, you
like,
can use
some
a
of them.
filter. Yeah, you can use that work around the filter, but we don't have like just like a simple flip that's just built in.
Oh yeah, just on the alpha. I think some of the alphas that are procedural that we ship with do have a flip on them. I think maybe that's what he was
Yeah, we may
talking
have
about.
added a parameter for some of those. Yeah, the substance.
Yeah, but it just needs to be like just a core brush setting.
Yeah, ideally anything that you bring in, even if it's like a PNG, you would want to be able to flip it.
Yeah.
Okay, and our last question. Can you add to Substance Designer the ability to create shelves with blanks like in Houdini? When I move the blank from the shelf, a chain of nodes prepared by me would be created in the network. I know we can't do that immediately, but this is the request.
Oh, so these are like kind of something like templates. Like it's a bunch of nodes. It's a because right now you can create subgraphs that you could bring in from the library, but you can't bring just a chain of node that you preset. I assume that's the ask. It's just to be able to bring multiple nodes at once that are already plugged together.
Yeah, you could kind of do it as a script, right? Like I think I saw David do something like that maybe a long time ago. Because when we first created the API where you could set up. You know what I'm talking about, Jeremy? Where they call them the little tools that go like align nodes. One of them I saw some of our users were creating it like you click the button and it would create like a set of nodes for you. I mean, you got to script it and stuff, but still, I mean, you can put that as part of as a tool in the toolbar, which is kind of neat.
Probably doable with plugin, yeah, but not built in for now.
Alrighty, everyone. I believe that was our last question. So that concludes our live stream for today. Just wanted to give a special thanks to everybody on the team at 3D and Immersive. Special thanks to everybody that's here, everyone who's behind the scenes that's helping us run the live stream, and also shout out to our moderators, Anna and Vincent. Thank you so much for being able to handle. And then shout out to everybody who joined us in the actual chat today to watch our live stream. Couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you for asking questions. Thank you for all of your suggestions. We do actually listen to everybody. I feel like a lot of the time people are like, oh, well, am I just throwing my questions or suggestions into the ether? No, we do collect them all. We do look at them all. We can also have that kind of relationship in Discord. We also do read through all of our social media messages too, for those who are following us. We greatly appreciate everyone's support. And so we look forward